We have Jeff Barr here with us, and he's going to talk about his reInvent plan.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey there.
So you don't really need any introduction, but for anyone who's been living under an AWS rock, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at AWS.
I've been at Amazon since 2002. I started the AWS blog in 2004.
Wow.
When I started, it was just a tiny bit of my job, and over the years, it's now grown to be about 80% of my job, and I love to work with all of our teams to listen to them, learn from them, and then write blog posts that our audiences will use to learn about all of our new services and new features.
Cool, that's awesome. Very exciting.
So Jeff, you recently wrote a blog post about reInvent and some of the changes that we're making this year. Why don't we recap that for folks who didn't read it, and then they can go back and read the full thing later as well. So let's talk about what the summary of that blog post was about.
So to me, a really big challenge that we have is clearly dealing with scale. I remember the first reInvent, we had 6,000 folks total. This year we'll be far ahead of 40,000.
Yeah.
And making sure that we give a great experience for all of our customers and all of our partners at reInvent is super, super important. Making sure that the traffic flows, that people can get from place to place, that they can find the buses, that the buses get them efficiently, that they've got additional transportation options, that they have a good overview of all the different sessions available to them. I think those are all really perhaps unappreciated aspects of what it takes to prepare for a gigantic event like this.
Yeah.
What is your week like at reInvent? I think our viewers would be really interested to know, like, what goes into Jeff Barr's week at reInvent?
Yeah.
So it's really, really fun. And I think what I've learned from doing, this is now our 7th reInvent.
Seventh reInvent.
I've learned that because I actually start my preparation at the beginning of September, and I really think of this kind of declining amount of energy, personal energy that I have, and I make sure that I draw that declining line so that it ends at the last day of reInvent and not the first day of reInvent. So it's really important to actually arrive in Vegas with plenty of energy and still revved up to go. What I mostly end up doing is I love to meet with folks that maybe have read some blog posts, maybe they follow me on Twitter. I love to stop and say hello. To me, it's really important to actually learn who my customers are, who my audience is. I love to actually have a chance to chat. I love to have an opportunity to maybe even take a selfie with my audience and just to get to know really who's out there. And it's far more interesting to know that it's a person than just an email address or a Twitter handle. So that to me is part of it. I'm probably something of a blur as I go from place to place. If anybody sees me and says, oh, there's Jeff, but he's too busy, I'm never, ever, ever too busy to stop and to say hello. So please feel free, if anybody sees me, stop, interrupt, say hello, and I will do my absolute best to make some time for you.
Yeah, and are you also still writing your blogs? Like, how does your job work at reInvent too?
Again, with the planning, I try really hard to literally show up with nothing to do. So things will actually have to be done while I'm there, but I don't have any scheduled list because I have, I think, what my daughter calls FOMO, and I know that once I'm there at reInvent and there's all this awesome stuff happening out in the halls and in the sessions, and even in the days before we open the doors, I just can't focus on the keyboard. And even if the services are super exciting, I would much rather be out meeting people than somehow just trying to type and do screenshots and stuff like that. So my goal is always arrive with a fully wrapped up set of blog posts. If something emerges and I need to make a couple edits, that's fine. But I want it to be surprise work versus, oh, I'll just make a few last little fine-tuning kind of things when I get there. So that way I can focus on the show, I can really be out and about and just meet lots of folks. And
one of the most fun parts for AWS employees is being there and interacting with the customers and feeling that energy. You really can't explain it to people who haven't been to reInvent, like what that feeling feels like on site.
We actually have great customers. They're so enthusiastic about what they're doing, and they're doing really, really, really cool stuff. And every time you talk to someone and say, how are you using AWS? It's like, well, I built one of these, and it enabled me to do this thing that I couldn't have even done before, and I just love to hear all those stories.
Yeah, it's neat.
Totally.
So reInvent is first and foremost an educational conference. So tell us about some of the more technical content that you are interested in and excited about this year.
Okay, so first, true confession.
Okay.
I've only ever been inside 2 sessions ever.
Well, that's good because employees are not supposed to attend breakout sessions unless they're speakers.
I was speaker.
Okay, great. Well, see, you're just following the rules.
Well, I don't think there were rules the first year.
Well, maybe not, but there are now.
What I'd like to learn a lot about this year, I think, is some IoT, because I love to play around with little computers and lights and switches and sensors. I think that's all really, really cool and really fun.
Cool.
And probably some AR and VR has really caught my eye, and I saw that there's quite a bit of that on your session calendar, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, there is.
We ask all of our guests what their survival tips are, their tips and tricks for getting through reInvent. What are your tricks that you've learned over the years?
So let's see. First, don't underestimate the scale of Las Vegas. It's a really big place, and you look at a map and you say, well, here's a hotel, and here's some rooms, and here's another hotel, and here's a street. Leaving one up the street into the next, you can easily consume 30 or 45 minutes doing that. So if it's your first time in Vegas, really remember that it's a very, very big place. You will be walking all day.
Yes.
Bring shoes that you've actually worn before and that are 18-hour shoes. And my wife actually has a lot of shoes. She calls her 2-hour shoes. Those will not do for Vegas. Do not bring your 2-hour shoes.
No.
So bring comfortable shoes that you're comfortable being in all day. Remember that Vegas is a desert, and keep yourself well hydrated.
Yes.
Yep.
Definitely.